This is Lisa from MobileTechReview, and exciting times. It's a new kind of Surface on the block. This is the Surface Laptop Studio. Kind of a weird name. It's both, I guess, a combo of the Surface Laptop with some ideas from the Surface Studio desktop. Just call it the SLS. That's what people are doing, even if it does sort of sound like a Lexus or an Acura model, right? So this replaces the Surface Book family, Surface Book 3, which was a 13.5 and a 15-inch option set there for you. So this sits in between at 14.4 inches. And I think the new design is something that most people, but not everybody, is going to like. We're going to find out now. This is a Surface product, so don't expect it to be budget priced, right? It's premium design. Everything is put together really well. Here we still have that magnesium alloy casing where Surface Pro 8 and Surface Laptop have gone to recycled aluminum. And it starts at $1,600 for a Core i5 with 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gig SSD and integrated graphics only. My guess is most people who have their butts in their seats right now watching this video probably are watching this because they're more interested in the higher performance model, which is what we have. We have the Core i7, which has the NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti GPU, 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig SSD. That's $2,100. That ain't cheap. But when you compare this to Surface Pro 8, which I know some of you are doing and trying to decide which you want, it's actually priced the same as a Surface Pro 8 with the same i7, the same amount of RAM, same SSD capacity, plus a type cover. So if you're kind of on the fence and you're thinking you're saving money by getting a Surface Pro, no, you're not. All right. So you can go even higher with the configurations here. You can go up to 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 or a 2 terabyte SSD. If you go with that 1 terabyte SSD, the price starts to get eye-bleedingly painful at $2,800. I don't even remember the prices of the 2 terabyte. Just shoot me now. It's expensive, right? So at least this has an upgradable SSD if you want to do it after the fact. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's hard to fault the build quality in any way. It is really well put together, and it has an updated design language. The bezels have gotten a little bit smaller. There's rounded corners on board, and the most obvious and interesting two design features are, well, first, the pedestal design, which looks pretty weird in photographs and if you focus on it just from a side view, but when you use it, when it's sitting on a desk or something like that, you actually don't see the inset pedestal at all. It kind of looks like it's just floating slightly off the desk. It's kind of clever. It makes it look thinner because this is by no means a particularly thin laptop. Clearly, it's not as thin as Surface Pro 8, which is just a straight tablet, right? That pedestal, I like it a lot. Why? Because it really works for cooling. First off, there's no vents on the bottom to block with your legs. You know, like a lot of gaming and performance laptops always say, don't put it on your legs. You're going to block the vents and cook that thing. That's not a problem here. And the vents run all around. There are 2 fans inside, and it vents out mostly on the sides. And it disperses the heat very effectively. You'll feel warm air coming out from there, but not blowing at you and not frying your legs. It's really pretty remarkably effective, and I have to applaud Microsoft because this is a product that's designed for creators, that sort of crowd, not the gaming laptop crowd where we're used to putting up with a lot of heat and a lot of noise and we put desk fans behind them and do anything else that we can. This is something that's actually usable for somebody who's doing Adobe Premiere or compiling some code or working in Photoshop or doing some stuff in Blender without taking the hair off your legs, if you know what I mean. And the fans on it are actually pretty quiet most of the time too. Even when playing games, like I was playing A Plague's Tale, which is a modern enough title, you could hear the fans, but way quieter than a gaming laptop. So for those of you who are thinking, well, I could go with an Asus ROG Zephyrus G14. Well, yes, you could, if you don't need the convertibleness, the pen, and all the things that this brings to the table in terms of performance. But let's face it, the G14 is a hotter and louder machine too. And creatives bring these things into workplaces and don't want to annoy everybody. So that's starting to sound promising. And as a Surface Book 3 replacement, you want to see some horsepower. And the gotcha with the Surface Book 3 was always the fact that it still had a basic 15-watt Ultrabook CPU in the tablet section, which is where the brains were. That's why you could detach it and still use it. There was a second battery and a GPU in the base, and those you would lose the functionality of if you detached it, right? I tried using a Surface Book as my main computer, and that didn't last more than 2 months because of the things that I used it for. It was throttling. The fans were always loud. I felt like I was going to kill the thing early. And this one has enough horsepower with the Intel H35 35 watt CPU that it can hold up to my kind of workloads, which is occasionally video editing. My video editor has their own machine to use, so I don't actually do a lot of that on my machine, but still, it can handle that. It can handle Photoshop. It can handle some Blender. It can handle lots of tabs and Chrome and all that sort of thing. So it is creator suitable, and it handles real-time export of 4K video in Adobe Premiere, which means you got a 5-minute 4K video, it takes 5 minutes to export. Sure, you can get a much more powerful desktop or Alienware gaming X17 laptop or something and do it even faster, but for something that's 14.4 inches, that's not a difficult thing to carry around and looks primo. It's fair enough. So for the CPU, again, this is a quad core. This is not a 6-core CPU. So keep that in mind for those of you who need the most horsepower you can actually get. The GPU is actually pretty good. That NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti is 50 watt. You can get that card anywhere from 35 to 80 watts, depending on the configuration. So Microsoft didn't just go with the lowest they possibly could go with there. So that's not too bad. So horsepower-wise, they probably found a good balance here. More powerful than an Ultrabook, certainly, or a Surface Pro 8, or an Intel Surface laptop, but not up there with the Dell XPS 15 in terms of horsepower or gaming laptops. But this is the convertible model for people who are not looking for a sole-purpose gaming machine or super-duper compute power thing, something you can use Adobe programs on, for example. And that's because it has the pull-forward hinge design. I won't call it new because way back in 2013, we reviewed the Sony Vaio Duo, which was one of the first, as far as I remember, pull forward design, though it didn't pull forward to cover the keyboard area. We've seen this with the Acer Concept D easel, which are really gaming laptops and more powerful and more heavy and not quite as pretty. And we've seen it in the HP Folio, that vegan leather-clad laptop that had the design like this. So what that means is instead of detaching the display and having that complex serpentine hinge that I think in the end discouraged some people from detaching their Surface Book tablet from the base, you've got something you can always keep it facing forward, which is kind of nice. It doesn't take you out of the flow of things. And I've discovered I really do enjoy it here. So like many folks, I have a feeling, I sit down and I'm just going to watch a video or surf through Reddit or something like that. And I think I don't need a keyboard. And I do this with my iPad. And then sure enough, you want to respond to a post or start doing something like that. And then you're like, okay, now I got to flip it back, say with the Surface Pro 8, get the keyboard out in front of me again, and it's kind of annoying. With this, if I have it in that tent pull forward mode, which is great for the touchscreen use, the pen use, and consuming content, all I do is there are magnets, just lift it up, put it back in laptop position. Got the keyboard, do what I need to do, pull it back and forward. If I want to use it as a tablet, granted a heavy one, this thing is around 4 pounds or so, weighing in between a Surface Book 3 13.5 and 15-inch model, then you can put it in tablet mode as well and use it on a table. Obviously, it's kind of on the heavy side, or you can put it on your legs. If you want to flip it over backwards to present something to somebody else, you can do that, though. That gets pretty weird because you can't see what's going on the screen anymore, but you could do that without detaching the display, picking it up, turning it around, remounting it, waiting for the GPU to connect, disconnect, all that thing. It's pretty good. And that's who this laptop is for. It's for people who want convertibles. It's not for people who want a 16-inch MacBook Pro or a Dell XPS 15 or a Dell XPS 13. They want something that turns into a convertible. They want the touchscreen and the pen experience. They want to be able to put it in tablet mode or tent mode for consumption, nice on airplane tray tables, for example, that sort of thing. And that gets us to the pen, which the new Slim Pen 2 is the one you're supposed to buy to go with this, which is not in the box. That's $130, and no longer comes with a charging sled. And I tried the last gen's charging sled. It didn't work. Maybe there'll be a firmware update for the base. But anyway, the pen charges by connecting under the pedestal, right under the front lip. It's real easy to slide it in there. In fact, if you get anywhere near there, the magnet just sucks it in there and it holds it, so you probably won't lose it in your bag. But this is a good pen, and I have never really loved Surface pens and N-Trig technology. The line jitter, the palm rejection used to not be so good. They got better at that. Just the line quality. I do a lot of artwork. For note-taking, you're probably less picky. And now it's really enjoyable, in part because the new nib design is a much longer conical tip, sort of like an Apple Pencil 2. And it's more grippy, so you're not skating across the glass. And they have the haptic feedback on board here. So When you're writing for apps that support it, like Sketchable or Microsoft's own journal program, which is really actually pretty excellent, it feels like a pencil. You feel that little bit of scratchiness going along. If you're doing a paintbrush, it's a little swishy feeling. If you use the eraser, it really feels like it's scrubbing. And that makes you feel more connected to what you're doing, and it gives you a greater sense of control. It's very hard to describe. You just have to experience it. I thought it was just going to be a party trick, but it's actually excellent. And we also have a 120 hertz display here, so that helps too, just like with Apple's ProMotion, so you get a faster refresh so the line draws more immediately to reflect what you're doing. And that's something that I think a lot of people like. You usually only see this on a gaming laptop, right? And to see this on a creator laptop is kind of cool. Not only is it pleasant to use if you're scrolling up and down and you don't want to see the schmeary looking thing, but it's great for art. Now that said, out of the box, it's set to 60 hertz. So you have to go to advanced display settings to enable 120 hertz. Variable refresh is supposed to come with an OS update later, I think this year, from Microsoft for Windows 11, which this ships with, but so far not there. So it also depends on how you feel about your battery life. There's about an hour runtime difference between 60 hertz and 120 hertz. The display itself is still billed as IPS and a pixel sense display. It is not as high resolution as the Surface Book 3 15-inch, so that's a bit of a downgrade. It still looks really good, so I'm okay with that. I can't see the individual pixels on this. The colors on this are very nice, but still for this price, I would like to see 100% P3 color gamut instead of the 90% that we got here. You got a full sRGB, you got a decent Adobe RGB, but they could have done a little better there, I feel. It's certainly bright at 500 nits maximum brightness, which means there's another way to kill your battery life. For those of you who just like to max the brightness out, seared eyeballs, but who cares, right? Yeah, that's the only thing there, but very nice looking display. Great for consuming content, supports Dolby Vision. We also have Dolby Atmos. And speaking of Dolby Atmos, we have quad stereo speakers on board. 2 of them fire out the sides of the pedestal base and 2 from under the keyboard. And the audio is very good here. We're approaching the 16-inch MacBook Pro level of audio. Very clear highs, gets quite loud, has bass. I actually ended up not using headphones when playing games on this and when watching videos. It's good stuff. The keyboard and trackpad on this, also excellent. I mean, typically Microsoft with their Surface products does a good job at the keyboard. I like this even better than Surface Book 3. So it's very tactile. It kind of made me feel like I was going back like 8 years in time when laptops had very tactile keyboards with actual key travel. It's 1.3 millimeters. It actually feels deeper on this, but boy, did I love typing on. And it's backlit in white. The trackpad is large and it's a haptic trackpad, much like what Apple uses, and it's Sensei. So I've seen this used in some other Windows laptops and I wasn't as impressed, but they did a good job here. It never misses a beat. It responds to taps and clicks just the way that it should. And the click isn't too loud, which sometimes can be a problem with some Surface products. Now for ports, no legacy ports. That's the bad news, other than the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. We have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, so which means no more Surface docks and problems with multiple monitors and all that sort of thing. You can use Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4 docks and USB-C docks here. You want multiple monitors? No problem. You want to use an eGPU? You can do that, though I still don't think the cost is worth it between the eGPU and the cost of a graphics card these days, and the challenges of having an internal and an external NVIDIA card. Well, you know. Anyway, that's reasonably good connectivity by today's so-called modern standards where we don't get legacy ports anymore. The one thing that I will complain about, and something that's geared towards creators, there's no SD card slot. So immediately you're going to need an SD card reader with this or a USB-C dock with an SD card slot. So how about battery life? Right, something has to give here. We got a 58 watt-hour battery, which isn't really that big a battery for a 35 watt quad-core CPU and an NVIDIA dedicated GPU as well. Well, if you're using this unplugged, I have to say Microsoft did a pretty good job of not pulling up the GPU unnecessarily, which does help. And this does support Whisper mode and Max-Q technologies for the DGPU and all that sort of thing. It's highly dependent on what you use it for. If you're doing productivity tasks, Office and Slack and all that sort of thing, it can run at 60 hertz up to 8 hours. Which isn't too bad. It's not class leading, but that's not too bad given how small the battery is on this. If you're running at 120 hertz, knock an hour off that runtime. When playing video, which usually is where you see more efficiency for laptops these days, actually I got a bit shorter runtimes than that, about 6.5 hours streaming video, high resolution, high quality video, and I imagine just the big high resolution 3:2 aspect ratio display has something to do with that, or maybe there's some future optimizations. So let's, before we close, talk about that upgradable SSD. So it's not like Surface Pro 8 or the latest Surface laptop that has a nifty little magnetic door that leads to a half-height M.2 2230 SSD. With this one, you have to take the bottom cover off, and I don't know why, not that they're finally using a fairly conventional laptop design, that they didn't make it a little bit easier. You have to pull off the 2 rubber strips on the bottom to remove 7 Torx screws. Now, these strips don't deform like HP Spectre's strips do, at least. And then you have to pull off some rubber around the back edges near the hinge to get 2 more screws and then 1 under the trackpad. So you got to work for it to replace that SSD. The good news is the SSD is compatible with both 2230 that Microsoft likes to use and the full 2280 full height, more common M.2 SSDs. So it's upgradable, but you got to be pretty geeky if you want to do that. One thing I will complain about, sort of, is the hinge on this. This is not like Surface Studio's hinge, which is stiff at a variety of positions. Pretty much they expect you to use it in tent, laptop, or tablet modes, where it's super stable. No screen bounce, anything like that in laptop mode is well done, or in tent mode. But the hinge doesn't support other positions. I would like to see that in the future. No doubt that kind of design would add weight to it, and that was a consideration for them. And the fabric cover in the hinge assembly where the cables run, it's just odd. I don't know. But I guess it does the job. But certainly if you put it in any position in between, it just goes flippy floppy, which might be a little disconcerting to some. So that's the Surface Laptop Studio, and really they have done a very good job here. And for the price, they should have too. But I think for the creator types who are looking for the pen experience, the touch, the convertible design, something that's easier to use on a tray table and is more portable than a 15-inch Surface Book 3, certainly, but thanks to the 3:2 aspect ratio, you still feel sort of like you're using a 15-inch laptop. It checks a lot of boxes. You know, there are a few caveats, though. You don't get the 6-core CPU. And this price range, you might be hoping for it, even though then you'd be complaining about the heat and the noise, right? And there's no SD card slot. The hinge is great and the design is useful, but it is flippy floppy in the middle positions, which may be disconcerting for some. And compared to the HP Spectre X360 14 and 16-inch, well, the 14-inch is less performant. The 16-inch is more of a competitor. It really depends on which kind of design you're looking for, doesn't it? The Acer Concept D easel, I think, is a gaming laptop, really. It's a different market, bigger, heavier, hotter, louder. Not out yet for the latest generation, too, but compared to the pricing on Surface Book 3 back in the day, also, this is more attainable and affordable. The fact that you can get this in the same configuration plus a GPU versus a Surface Pro 8 in the same price, it means that this is not as bad a value as some Surface products. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit the notification bell so you know about them.